some ideas
Back
tonight.
to the
Your point
vice
is well
president.
taken.
Back up.
Ask him to tell the speaker this. How we
We're
think it is, how
here.
we
We're
feel.
here. We worked.
And
We're
the speaker
willing to
should know.
work. But don't tell us we didn't do anything. You got in there and we didn't hear anything.
And don't waste the capital that we provided.
We don't
Been
know
screwing around
what
with
to
this for a
do.
year.
We need somebody from the Democratic Party to speak up and not be afraid to say we're Democrats. Because
Barack
I'm
Obama,
not.
President Obama, he did make one mistake, extending the olive branch to the Republicans.
Well, he's done it now. It's over.
Because he's the president of all the people though, so you have to.
That's right.
He's not just
I
the president
respect
of the
him for
Democrats.
that.
Once they get
But
their
it
benefits
was
from the
something
medical
more.
care, they'll all turn to him anyway. Once this medical bill goes through and everybody realizes that it's better, they'll all turn.
All right, can we move? Thank you. Some questions over here? Yeah?
I actually could have a ton of questions, but I'm going to limit it to two in a comment. Your office is always so nice when I call.
Let's go.
I actually am into positive reinforcement, so I do pay attention to what you vote, and every time you vote the way I want you to, I call you up and say thank you. Your office is so nice.
What do you do in the business?
Actually, he hasn't voted the wrong way yet, so. At least not in the vote I cared about.
All right, question.
But my
Right, so
question
you have a
is
second?
actually related to the financial services. And so it's a little bit different because I'm really passionate about healthcare, but I'll let everybody else speak about that. Dodd's backing off on the Consumer Financial Protection Agency, and he's talking about putting it under the Fed, which is like having a,
Yeah.
fox guard
Yeah.
the hen house. What's the House's portion? I mean, what part of that, I didn't see that in the House bill, and I was just wondering,
You didn't see what?
I didn't see a separate
No,
consumer.
it's a separate, it's a separate
Yeah,
agency. Separate agency,
okay.
I mean, it's very strong to do that, to make sure that we have those consumer protections in there. So we're, folks who supported that kind of regulatory reform are not happy with what we're seeing in the Senate.
Yeah.
But I've been not happy about a lot of what I see in the Senate since I've been there.
I'm surprised at Dodd too, given he's retiring.
Yeah.
He's usually a pretty strong advocate, so.
It is just so important to take this opportunity to make sure that those consumer protections are in there for the financial industry. So the Consumer Protection Agency was a big part of that, so that people would have the same kind of consumer protections that we have for other kinds of products, tangible type products. And the example I usually give is a toaster. When you buy a toaster, you're pretty well sure that it's not going to electrocute you because of the consumer protections built into the toaster, that it's going to be safe for you to use. If you were to use that same example in the financial area, you would use that toaster and it would electrocute you after 3 times of use, and they would have said, well, you should have looked at the schematic, and you would have seen that it was going to electrocute you the 3rd time you used it, so don't come to us because we disclosed it. And that's what happens. So when you get, for example, credit card statements, there are these big, thick documents, and I can assure you that's not consumer protections they're all outlining in that big, thick document. It's all the ways that they're going to zap you. And that's why it's important. We did pass a very comprehensive credit card bill that did get signed into law, or just went into effect rather, last week, which is some very important protections for consumers, and we need to move forward further with the consumer protection. So I know we're not real happy with what we're seeing in the Senate, and I can assure you that we're going to push back and say, no, that's not what we need. We need to have, this is an opportunity to put protections in for consumers, and we're going to take it and push it pretty hard.
Question here, sir?
If you could take another financial question. I'm a vice president of engineering of an automotive supplier in Warren.
Right.
Good old-fashioned metal stamping.
Right.
We have, by advancing our technology, we have managed to take jobs away from little government subsidized companies all over the world, so we can compete globally. What we can't do is we can't get a loan from the bank, even against our contract invoices. Okay? We've been around for 50 years. Okay? What can you do to get the banks lending again or else?
Fire the CEOs.
Put the CEOs in jail.
That is actually that's the number one problem I'm working on right now is small business lending, because it is probably the major impediment right now for job creation, particularly here in Michigan, where you had the big banks are redlining us in a lot of respects because of the auto industry. So we're working on that in a couple ways. And one that I've been focused on is making sure that our smaller banks, our community banks, the regional banks that are here, which we know will be lending if are strengthened so that they're able to do that. Right now you've got a situation, particularly here in Michigan with community banks, where you've got bank regulators going into these banks and saying you've got to beef up your reserves because all the collateral is dropping. Property values are dropping, your reserves aren't there, so you've got to increase your reserves, which, on the face of it certainly is prudent. The problem is a bank in that situation, or smaller community banks, only have two options in order to raise it. You can raise more equity in the private market into your bank, which is a very difficult thing to do right now because a lot of people don't see an investment in a Michigan bank as a particularly good investment. So it's hard to bring in that private money. So the only other way you can increase your reserves is by calling in loans. You call them in, you certainly don't issue new loans, and you call in loans for people whose collateral is dropping. And what happens as their collateral drops and you call in the loan because now they've violated the covenant, and they can't go anywhere else to get a loan because no one's lending because the values are dropping. You get a situation then where those folks then sell that property at a fire sale price, and then that drives everything else down even further. And so you get this vicious circle downward. So we've got to take a two-pronged approach. One is to put in equity with our community banks and tie it to actual lending for small businesses. President Obama announced a $30 billion program in the State of the Union. I was probably the first guy to jump out of my seat and clap during that speech because it's particularly important for us in Michigan. And it ties it directly to lending, and then the rate goes down as we go forward. But into your question specifically, I'm very acutely aware of what's happening with auto suppliers who can hire people right now because you have orders. You got standing orders to come in. You can hire people to gear up, buy the tooling you need, the materials, but you need a loan to do that. The problem is that the collateral has dropped for auto suppliers too. So they may have been worth $30 million, now they're worth $20 million, and the bank's saying you don't have collateral to back it up even though you've got this order, we don't want to take that risk. So our state MEDC has a program that we're going to be modeling that allows federal government through the state to put collateral into those auto suppliers, or rather into the bank for the auto suppliers, and then once the orders come in, then it gets paid back with interest back to the state. There's actually a bill that I've co-sponsored with Mr. Dingle and Mr. Levin, Sandy Levin, to do that. We're in conversations as we speak with the Treasury Department to incorporate that or something very similar to that in the $30 billion package for small business relief for lending. So I can't announce that that's happened yet, but that's where our discussions are. And hopefully we'll have that in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We can move that forward because small business lending is the number one, or probably one of the number one problems for us right now. And it's everybody sees it's not just small business people. I did a teletown hall meeting where we are on the phone. Hopefully some of you have been on those, where we call thousands of people here in the district. People can ask questions, and then we do surveys of, what do you think we need to do to be fixing the economy and other types of questions. And we ask, tax credit for businesses, investments, small business lending. And small business lending was number one. It was close to 40% of the respondents, which you don't normally get in a big town hall meeting for that. But it's so apparent that that's really what's happening. You've got banks that are just not lending, particularly to our small businesses. So that's, I think, is job number one. But we've got to pay particular attention to suppliers and some of it's not just auto suppliers, it's all manufacturers right now are in that same problem. So it's nationwide. Small manufacturers, which we have a disproportionate share of here in Michigan. So I'm working on that every single day, and we're close to having something to put forward that I think will be very effective.
I think we got one.
Sorry, it was long-winded answer.